Her hand was shaking. Sofia Martinez stood there, staring at 15 crisp $100 bills fanned out across the marble counter like some kind of cosmic test. The restaurant was empty. The security cameras had been broken for 3 weeks. Her manager was passed out drunk in the back office. The other servers had gone home. It was just her, the silence, and $1,500 that didn't belong to her. Nobody would ever know if she took it. Nobody would ever find out. And God knows she needed it so desperately that her chest ached just looking at it. But here's the thing about moments like this. They don't just test what you'll do. They reveal who you really are when no one is watching. And what Sofia did next, it didn't just change her life. It changed everything. Let me take you back a few hours, so you understand just how impossible this choice really was. Sofia had been on her feet for 11 hours straight. 11 hours of smiling at people who looked right through her, of carrying plates that cost more than her weekly paycheck, of pretending her lower back wasn't screaming with every step. She worked at Le Bernardin in Manhattan, the kind of place where crystal chandeliers cost more than she made in a year, where businessmen proposed to their mistresses over $80 steaks, where the wealthy came to be seen, and people like Sofia came to survive. 3 years she'd worked there. 3 years of yes, sir, right away, ma'am, and is everything to your satisfaction? 3 years of being invisible. Her shift had started at 11 that morning. It was now almost 10 at night. Her daughter, Lucia, was with Mrs. Kowalski next door again. The elderly Polish woman never complained, but Sofia saw it, the way she was slowing down, getting more tired. The guilt sat in Sofia's stomach like a stone. Lucia was 7 years old. She had leukemia. Let that sink in for a moment. 7 years old. An age when kids should be worried about homework and playground games. Instead, Lucia knew the names of her medications. She knew which nurses were gentle with the 4 needles. She was braver than Sofia had ever been. But bravery doesn't pay medical bills. The treatments were crushing them financially. Even with insurance, the bare minimum coverage the restaurant provided, the copays and medications were drowning them. Sofia worked doubles whenever she could, picked up every extra shift, said yes to every holiday when other servers wanted time off. It still wasn't enough. The orthopedic shoes she'd bought on credit were already falling apart, the insoles compressed into useless rubber pancakes. The eviction notice on her apartment door gave her 30 days. The electric company had sent a final warning. Every single penny counted. Every single one. So when table 12 got seated that night, Sofia didn't think much of it. Just another customer. Just another table. She grabbed a menu and a water pitcher, her feet protesting each step across the dining room. Then she saw him. Everyone in New York knew Marcus Ashford. Tech billionaire. Real estate mogul. The man who'd revolutionized sustainable urban development and sold his company for an obscene fortune. They called him the architect. At 45, he was handsome in that severe, powerful way, the kind of man who walked into rooms and commanded attention without saying a word. But that's not what stopped Sofia in her tracks. Marcus Ashford was crying. Not sobbing. Not making a scene. But tears were streaming down his face as he stared at his phone, his jaw clenched so tight the muscles jumped beneath his skin. Sofia had spent years learning to be invisible, learning not to see the things wealthy people didn't want seen. Rule number 1 of fine dining: pretend you notice nothing. But she was a mother, and she recognized that specific quality of grief. "Sir," she said softly, approaching the table. "Can I get you anything?" Marcus looked up, and for a moment he didn't see her at all. His eyes were somewhere else entirely, somewhere terrible. Then he blinked, and his expression hardened into something cold and controlled. "Water," he said, his voice rough. "Room temperature. And the Wagyu ribeye. Rare. I don't care about the sides." "Of course," Sofia said. As she turned to leave, his phone rang again. She heard him answer. Heard him say, "I'm leaving now. I'll be there in 20 minutes. His voice cracked on the last word. Sofia walked to the kitchen, placed the order, and tried to shake the feeling that something terrible was unfolding at table 12. The meal came out perfectly. A beautiful steak with a gorgeous crust, the interior ruby red. She brought it out with the precision she'd perfected over 3 years. Marcus barely looked at it. He cut one piece, chewed mechanically, then pushed the plate away. His phone sat face down on the table. He kept checking his watch, a platinum Patek Philippe that probably cost more than Sofia's car. "Is everything all right with the meal, sir?" she asked. "It's fine," he said curtly. Then, after a pause, Actually, can you bring me the check? I need to leave. Sophia processed the payment quickly. The meal came to $320. When she brought the bill folder back, Marcus had already stood up, his phone pressed to his ear. She heard him say, "I don't care what the board says, Jeffrey. My daughter is in the ICU. I'm on my way to the hospital now. Move the meeting. Move everything." His daughter. Sophia's heart clenched. She set the bill folder down quietly and backed away, giving him privacy. Marcus hung up, grabbed his coat, and walked toward the exit with long, desperate strides. The glass door swung shut behind him. Through the window, Sophia saw him climb into a black Bentley. The car pulled away into the rainy Manhattan night. She went to clear the table. That's when she saw it. $1,500 bills, placed neatly beside the bill folder, for a $320 meal. Sophia's brain went blank. She just stared at the money, unable to process what she was seeing. "Holy hell," said Hannah, another waitress, appearing at Sophia's elbow. "Is that $1,500? I think he left it by mistake," Sophia whispered. Hannah's eyes went wide. "Mistake? Girl, that's rent for 3 months. That's a jackpot. Finders keepers." But Sophia couldn't stop seeing Marcus's face. The devastation in his eyes. The way his voice broke when he said ICU. This wasn't a generous tip. This was a man whose world was ending, who'd thrown money on the table without even looking because his mind was already at that hospital, already with his daughter. "It's not mine," Sophia said, her voice barely audible. "He's a billionaire, Sophia. He wipes his ass with $100 bills. He won't even notice it's gone." Sophia's hand hovered over the money. She thought about Lucia's medication, 2 months' worth, right there. She thought about the electric bill, the water bill, groceries. She thought about that eviction notice. She thought about the suffocating panic that woke her up at 3 in the morning every single night, wondering how she was going to make it through another week. $1,500 would change everything. But it wasn't hers. And that man, that broken, desperate man, his daughter was in the ICU. If Lucia were in the ICU, Sophia would be losing her mind. The absolute last thing she'd need would be to discover she'd accidentally left $1,500 at a restaurant. Her hand closed around the bills. Hannah gasped. "What are you doing?" "Giving it back," Sophia said. "Are you insane?" Maybe she was. Probably she was. But she grabbed her coat and headed for the door. "Do you even know which hospital?" Hannah called after her. "Providence," Sophia said, remembering what she'd overheard. "I think I heard him mention Providence Memorial. You're making a huge mistake." Maybe. But it was the right mistake to make. Sophia drove through the rainy Manhattan streets, her beat-up Honda coughing asthmatically. The entire drive, her logical brain was screaming at her. "You need this money. Your daughter needs this money. He's a billionaire. He won't even miss it. Turn around. Go home. Keep it." But her heart, her stubborn, foolish heart, wouldn't let her. Because here's what Sophia understood that most people don't. Integrity isn't about what's easy. It's not about what's logical. It's about who you are when nobody's watching. When there are no cameras, no witnesses, no consequences. It's about the choice you make when you could get away with anything. And Sophia Martinez, single mother, struggling waitress, woman on the edge of losing everything, she had already made her choice. She pulled into the hospital parking lot, clutching the envelope with $1,500 inside. She had no idea that this choice, this one moment of doing the right thing when it would have been so easy to do wrong, would change her entire life. But first, she had to find a broken man racing toward the worst night of his life. And what happened next? What happened when she walked into that hospital? That's when everything changed. Providence Memorial Hospital rose up against the night sky like a fortress of glass and steel. Sophia sat in her car for a moment, rain drumming on the windshield, and asked herself one more time if she was making the biggest mistake of her life. $1,500 sat in the envelope on her passenger seat. $1,500 that could save her. And she was about to give it back to a man who probably spent more than that on lunch. She took a deep breath, grabbed the envelope, and stepped out into the rain. The ICU was on the 4th floor. When Sophia stepped off the elevator, the smell hit her immediately. That particular hospital combination of antiseptic, fear, and the sterile sadness that clings to places where people fight for their lives. A nurse's station sat in the center of a hallway lined with rooms, most with their curtains drawn. "Can I help you?" asked a nurse with kind eyes and the exhausted posture of someone at the end of a long shift. "I'm looking for Marcus Ashford," Sophia said, clutching the envelope. I have something of his. I need to return it. The nurse's expression shifted to something guarded. Are you family? No, He was at my restaurant earlier. He left something behind. It's important. The nurse studied her for a long moment, clearly trying to decide if Sophia was legitimate or some kind of opportunist trying to get close to a billionaire in his moment of weakness. Mr. Ashford is with his daughter, she finally said. I can't disturb them right now. The situation is very delicate. I understand, Sophia said. But this really is important. Could you at least let him know I'm here? My name is Sophia Martinez. From Le Bernardin. The nurse hesitated, then nodded. Wait here. Sophia sat in an uncomfortable plastic chair, the envelope burning like fire in her hands. Around her, the hospital hummed with quiet emergencies. A woman sobbed into a phone in Spanish. A doctor rushed past, barking orders. An old man pushed an 4-pole down the hallway, his hospital gown hanging open in the back. 20 minutes passed. Each one felt like an hour. Then Marcus Ashford appeared at the end of the hallway. He looked worse than he had at the restaurant. His shirt was untucked, his tie missing. His eyes were red-rimmed and hollow. He stared at Sophia like she was a ghost, like his brain couldn't quite process why the waitress from his dinner was sitting in the ICU waiting room. You, he said, his voice hoarse. The waitress. From the restaurant. Sophia stood up, holding out the envelope. Her hands were shaking. You left this at your table, she said. I thought you might need it. Marcus looked at the envelope like he didn't understand what it was. Then recognition flashed across his face, followed by something that might have been disbelief. He took it, opened it, stared at the $1,500 bills inside. For a long moment, he said nothing. He just stood there, looking at the money, then at Sophia, then back at the money. You brought it back, he finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. It wasn't mine to keep. Marcus looked up at her, and the expression on his face was one of raw, unguarded shock. Do you have any idea, he said slowly, what most people would have done with this? Kept it, Sophia admitted. But it wasn't a tip. You were distracted. You made a mistake. I couldn't. Her voice caught. Your daughter. How is she? Marcus's face crumbled. For a moment, she thought he might break down completely. Her name is Emma, he said. She's 16. There was a motorcycle accident. Head trauma. They're saying the next 48 hours are critical. He stopped, his jaw working. We had a fight this morning. About her curfew. I told her she was being irresponsible. She stormed out, and now. He couldn't finish. Sophia's eyes filled with tears. I'm so sorry. Marcus stared at her. Really looked at her for the first time. You have a child, he said. It wasn't a question. I can tell. A daughter. Lucia. She's 7. And you still came here? There was something like wonder in his voice. In the middle of the night. To return money that could have. He shook his head. What's wrong with your daughter? The question caught Sophia off guard. She has leukemia. She's in treatment. The doctors say she's responding well, but... She stopped, not wanting to burden this man with her problems. Not now. Not when his own daughter was fighting for her life. Marcus looked down at the envelope in his hands. Then he looked back at Sophia, and something fundamental shifted in his expression. Come with me, he said. What? Please. Come with me. Before Sophia could protest, Marcus turned and walked down the hallway. After a moment's hesitation, she followed. He led her to a small family waiting room, empty except for a coffee machine that sputtered sadly in the corner. Marcus sank into a chair and buried his face in his hands. She wants to be an architect, he said, his voice muffled. Real buildings, not software. We've been arguing about it for months. I kept telling her to think practically, to consider tech, to follow in my footsteps. He looked up, his eyes devastated. I was so focused on shaping her future that I forgot to just be her father. Sophia sat down across from him. It's not your fault. Isn't it? Marcus's voice broke. I missed her soccer games. I missed her school plays. I was building an empire and losing my daughter. And now I might never get the chance to tell her I'm sorry. Sophia leaned forward. Then you tell her right now. Marcus stared at her. Whether she can hear you or not, Sophia continued, you tell her. You sit next to her bed and you talk to her. You tell her about every soccer game you'll go to, every play you'll attend. You make her promises. You don't understand. The doctors say. I don't care what the doctors say. Sophia's voice was firm. My daughter flatlined during her second round of chemo. They told me to prepare for the worst. But I sat next to her bed and I talked to her for 6 hours straight. I told her about every birthday party we'd have, every Christmas morning, every first day of school. I made her promises. And you know what? She came back. Marcus's expression crumbled. I don't know if I'm strong enough. You are, Sophia said with absolute certainty. Because you're her father. And that's what parents do. We fight even when it seems impossible. We hope even when hope seems foolish. We love so fiercely that we refuse to accept any outcome except the one we need. Something passed between them in that moment. A recognition, a shared understanding of what it meant to love someone so completely that their pain became your own. Thank you, Marcus whispered. For bringing back the money. For coming here. He gestured helplessly. For being human in a world where most people aren't. Sophia stood up. Go be with Emma, Mr. Ashford. Marcus, he said. My name is Marcus. Go be with Emma, Marcus. He nodded, standing. Then, impulsively, he grabbed the envelope and thrust it toward her. Keep it, please. You came all this way. Your daughter. No, Sophia said gently but firmly. I didn't come here for money. I came here because it was the right thing to do. Marcus stared at her, and in his eyes was something like awe. Then he did something unexpected. He pulled out his phone, typed rapidly, and showed her the screen. That's my personal number, he said. If you ever need anything at all, you call me. I mean it. Sophia looked at the number, then at Marcus's face. She saw that he was serious. Okay, she said quietly. Promise me, Marcus said urgently. Promise me you'll call if you need help. I promise. Marcus nodded, slipping his phone back into his pocket. Then he walked toward the ICU, his steps heavy but somehow more determined than before. Sophia stood alone in the waiting room, her hands empty, her heart strangely full. She left the hospital and drove home through the rain, second-guessing herself with every mile. She had just walked away from $1,500. Money that could have changed everything. But when she got home and climbed into bed next to Lucia, feeling her daughter's steady breathing against her chest, she absolutely knew, that she had made the right choice. Some things were more valuable than money. 3 days later, Sophia was halfway through her evening shift when the restaurant manager, Gordon, approached her with a sour expression. There's a man here to see you, he said, as if the very idea offended him. Says his name is Marcus Ashford. He insists on speaking with you immediately. Sophia's heart lurched. She put down her tray and walked toward the entrance. Marcus stood near the hostess stand, looking completely out of place in his expensive 3-piece suit. But his face was transformed. The haunted look was gone, replaced by something that looked almost like joy. Emma woke up, he said the moment he saw Sophia. The words tumbled out in a rush. This morning. She's awake. She's talking. The doctors say she's going to make a full recovery. Sophia's hand flew to her mouth. Oh my God. That's wonderful. I told her about you, Marcus continued. About what you did. About how you brought back the money when you desperately needed it. His voice caught. She said it was the most decent thing she'd ever heard. She wants to meet you. We both do. Properly, I mean. Not in a hospital waiting room at midnight. He glanced around the restaurant, at Gordon hovering disapprovingly, at the wealthy patrons pretending not to stare. Can you take a break? Please. I need to talk to you. Gordon grudgingly gave her 5 minutes. They walked outside into the cool evening air. The sun was setting, painting the Manhattan skyline in shades of orange and pink. I've been thinking about you constantly, Marcus said. About what you did. You're a single mother with a sick child. You're drowning in medical bills. Most people would have been justified in keeping that money. But you didn't. Why? Sophia wrapped her arms around herself. Because you needed it more than I did that night. Not the money. You needed one thing to go right in the worst moment of your life. Marcus pulled an envelope from his jacket. Sophia's stomach sank. If that's money, she started. It's not, Marcus interrupted. It's a job offer. Sophia blinked. What? I need someone I can trust, Marcus said. My company is worth billions, but I'm surrounded by people whose loyalty extends exactly as far as their stock options. I need someone who actually has principles. Someone who would chase a stranger across town to return money they desperately needed. He held out the envelope. Someone like you. Marcus, I don't have any business experience. I've worked in restaurants my whole life. I don't need business experience. I need character. Intelligence. The ability to see what others miss. He pressed the envelope into her hands. Executive assistant. $150,000 a year. Full health benefits, including private medical coverage for Lucia. And we have an on-site childcare facility. Sophia opened the envelope with shaking hands. The offer letter was official. Real. Completely impossible. I can't, she whispered. Why not? Because I'm nobody. I'm a waitress. You're somebody who did the right thing when it cost you everything, Marcus interrupted. That makes you somebody in my book. Probably the only person I can actually trust. Tears pricked Sophia's eyes. Why are you doing this? Marcus's expression softened. Because 3 nights ago, I was sitting in that hospital convinced I had lost everything that mattered. And a woman I'd never met reminded me that goodness still exists in the world. You gave me hope, Sophia. The least I can do is give you a chance. Sophia gave her notice the next day. Her first weeks at Ashford Development were terrifying. She felt like an imposter in her Target suit, surrounded by people in designer clothes who moved with the confidence of those who'd never worried about rent. But Marcus had hired her for a reason. You spent years as a waitress, he told her. You know how to be invisible, to notice what others miss. That's exactly what I need. And he was right. Sophia noticed things. She caught inconsistencies in financial reports. She saw a senior executive inflating revenue projections to secure a bigger bonus. Her observations exposed corruption that had festered for months. But honesty made enemies. Victoria Crane, a ruthless executive, cornered Sophia in her office one afternoon. You're a charity case, Victoria hissed. And charity runs out. When Marcus planned an $800 million merger, Sophia discovered the truth. Victoria had been secretly negotiating with the other company, orchestrating a takeover that would force Marcus out of his own company. Sophia's revelations saved everything. Victoria was forced to resign. The merger collapsed. Marcus promoted Sophia to vice president of operations. 6 months later, Sophia and Marcus stood in Central Park, watching the sunset. Lucia was healthy, her latest scans clear. She was playing nearby with Emma, the two of them laughing over some private joke. Do you ever regret it? Marcus asked quietly. Giving back the money? Sophia thought about that terrifying night. The certainty that she was making a terrible mistake. The voice in her head screaming that she was a fool. Then she thought about everything that followed. Lucia's treatment fully covered. The foundation she and Marcus had started to help other families drowning in medical debt. The woman she had become. No, she said. I don't regret it at all. Marcus smiled. Good. Because neither do I. They stood in comfortable silence as the city lights began to glow around them, one by one. Two people whose lives had collided in the most unlikely way, who had somehow built something beautiful from the wreckage. Sophia had returned $1,500 she desperately needed, and she'd gotten a transformed life in return. But here's what she understood now, standing in that park with the evening breeze on her face. The real gift wasn't the job or the money or even Lucia's medical coverage. The real gift was the reminder that integrity isn't about what you get back. It's about who you become when no one is watching. It's about the choice you make in that moment when you could do the wrong thing and no one would ever know. Because someone always knows. You know. And that one choice, that one decision to be decent when decency costs you everything, that defines not just your future, but your character. Sophia had made her choice in an empty restaurant with broken cameras and a drunk manager and $1,500 that could have saved her. She chose integrity. And integrity, it turned out, chose her back. Sometimes doing the right thing costs you everything in the moment. But sometimes, just sometimes, it gives you everything back and then some. The question isn't what would you do. The question is, who are you when no one is watching? That's the question that matters. That's the question that changes everything.